about Shanks?
Shanks is a good choice too.
But I mean, Shanks is super dying anyways, right?
No nonsense.
Hello and welcome to the final episode of the Blue Banana Podcast.
Blue Banana Podcast, the final chapters.
The final chapter, season 1, part 1.
Can we start with that? What did we just watch? It is the final season, the final chapters, special 2, chapters 4, 5, and 6, was
No,
it?
I think it was chapters 3, 4, and 5. Wait,
Okay.
no. 2, 3? No,
No.
it has to be 3, 4, and 5 because the last time we did this, it was chapters 1 and 2, right?
Yeah, so that was 2 chapters, and this final season, final chapters, special 2 was 3 chapters.
I mean, I'm going to guess by the length, it was an hour and a half, so I'd imagine that
It
that
was.
would be 3 chapters / 3 episodes. I distinctly remember seeing chapter 3 and chapter 4. I can't remember if I saw chapter 5.
There was definitely a chapter 5.
Okay, then it's chapters 3 to 5.
Interesting. Okay, just to quickly double check, both of you guys just witnessed the ending of Attack on Titan for the first time?
We did, literally just...
Yeah, just finished watching 5 minutes ago.
Those two were late. 30 minutes late to our recording time.
And I was additionally late because I had to go and wipe my face because I was crying.
I was about to ask, your
Oh.
face looks very clean, all things
No.
considering.
I was I'm gonna start crying again now.
So many emotions. I will admit I did not watch the final movie and I did not watch the season before that.
You have read the manga, so you'll be a nice contrast here.
Maybe you guys can understand that I was not necessarily in the mood for sitting through all of that again.
Fucking
It is a
depressing,
bit
man.
heavy. I can understand that.
I did catch up though on like potential differences between the anime and the manga, which wasn't that much apparently from what I can gather.
There were some pretty important lines, from what I see.
Yeah, but I mean the overall storyline stayed pretty much the same. It looks, at least according to internet.
Unfortunately, none of the three of us can confirm that, because none of us have experienced both.
Both.
Good point. How do we kick this off? First of all, I mean, to be fair, Attack on Titan has been one of those stories that have been with me, and I assume with you guys also, for quite a long time. And it's been
Long time.
after the initial like Bleach, Dragon Ball, One Piece era, kind of like one of the shows that kicked off kind of the second big coming of anime in the West, I would say.
I would say the big.
Sandwiched in there between the big three and Demon Slayer.
It's done a lot for anime in the West, like a lot of heavy lifting.
I remember it must be over 10 years now that the first season came out, probably.
It is. 2013.
Pretty much a year,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. The insane shock value that this show had, it kind of kicked off this entire like, oh, it's okay for shonen to be completely gruesome and violent kind of era.
It blended quite nicely with the Game of Thrones era. They sort of got
Yes.
started around the same time.
Very
That's
much.
very true. Yeah.
So they were like, if you like Game of Thrones, here's an anime that is kind of that. Not at all really, but like similar dark tones.
And it kind of had, similar to Game of Thrones, did have that shock vibe back then, but then now looking back at it through the lens of like all the Demon Slayers and Jujutsu Kaisens, time has definitely caught on, and there have been a lot more like stories that were like, oh, we're going gruesome, that's cool, we're gonna do that as well. So it's kind of interesting looking back at it through that lens and how it kind of like forged that path for many other shows afterwards, and again like a whole generation of anime watchers that grew up in the West.
Eren rumbled so that Yuji could run.
Yeah, very much so, yeah. Sophie, let's start with you, because you shed, were they tears of
This is powerful.
genuine emotions? Were tears of outrage, as some people would maybe put it?
I'm gonna start on that point and say I don't know why it got the hate that it did. I don't think the author deserved any sort of, what was it, death threats, and the level of hate that was generated by the fandom. I don't understand it because I think that was a pretty close to perfect ending.
I agree with Sophie to an extent. I don't understand why there was such a massive fuss about it. I thought it was pretty good, but I can definitely see that there's maybe, you know, just one little tiny massive criticism that could really twist your perspective on things. What I think has happened here is that Sophie is going to be ultra positive, you're going to be ultra negative, and I'm going to be somewhere in the middle.
Actually, I am kind of in the middle like you as well, but I think I'm in a different middle than you.
A different middle, we're in different middles.
Yeah, I think we are in different middles.
I agree with you. I don't understand understand the hate that it got. However, there is just one like little thing that it can maybe twisted in that direction, which is that I don't know what you took away from the ending, and I don't know if what I took away is accurate, but at the end of the day, the message to me regarding Eren is that Eren did nothing wrong. Would that be accurate?
I don't know that they were trying to say that he did nothing wrong. I think it was more the feeling that I got was that he was a severely mentally ill boy. Like, seriously,
you're correct, yeah.
I mean, and you can sort of understand it, right? If you're experiencing the future, the past, and the present all at the same time, and you're experiencing everyone's different memories, you sort of lose who you are.
I mean, he was already mentally ill as a kid.
Yeah, fair enough. Like, he was dealing with this, crazy amount of trauma. Yeah, exactly. And look, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not.
You're a lawyer.
You're a lawyer, close enough.
You're worse.
I'm not qualified in this field.
So did Eren break the law, in your opinion?
Oh, just killing 80% of humanity? I do that for breakfast.
Is there even a crime for that? Is there a crime for mega murder?
Not if you break the law itself.
When I say Eren did nothing wrong, there's this whole speech at the end about being like a slave to freedom. Like, Eren was living simultaneously at all points in time. He could do anything, but every choice he made would ultimately lead back to what was happening here. There was nothing that he could have done. And I think Mikasa even says that, like, it wasn't Eren's choice, or it wasn't just Eren's choice. It was the choices of everyone around him that kind of funneled him down that path, which is why I landed that Eren kind of did nothing wrong because he had no choice mentality, which makes me feel just like a little bit uncomfortable.
Was not the takeaway I had.
Interesting.
So, if that was the message that the author was trying to get away with, do you think that that was wrong because you'd like Eren to have some level of culpability? Is that what you're saying?
I think it's a bit of a disconnect for me because I actually really like the overall, like is the incorrect word. I appreciate the overall message, which is that life doesn't have a happy ending. As long as humans exist, we're always going to be at war with one another. You might be able to buy a few.
We're the real Titans.
We were the real Titans all along. I appreciate that message, but I think because that is reality, I think it gets very disconnected when Eren more or less gets absolved.
I don't think he does.
I don't know. I
think he does get I think to a big degree he does get absolved, and I think it is because it's a blend of things. It's the fact that it's not just all Eren. They were right in saying that it's all of humanity's actions that led everyone down this path, because even after Eren comes in with his solution, they still decide to fight in the end anyways, and they're still at war with each other. I think if anything, that was the thing that I didn't like the most about the ending, was that after everything, after all of this, everyone's still at fucking war.
It didn't matter. Because it's gonna happen anyway, Titans or not.
I mean, I guess the Titans come back at the end, right?
Well, the metaphorical Titans come back.
No, the actual Titans come back. That's why the boy is standing in front of the
What?
same tree that Ymir got hit the Titans in the first place. That's the last scene, no?
All right, then, Minor, you've got to fill us in on
What?
the manga because
Explain.
that did
Didn't
not
realize
fucking
that?
happen in
Explain
the
yourself.
anime.
I had no idea who that boy was.
That's just like some boy in the future.
It's like hundreds and hundreds of years into the future after Paradise got nuked.
And that's the same type of tree that Ymir got the worm in like 5,000 years ago or something, where the first Titan that worm came out of.
So the cycle restarts.
That's, I think, the idea. War happens anyways, the cycle restarts, new Titans
that's
come, as I
thematic.
think. I mean, for me personally, I kind of, because Liam said earlier, Sophie, that he thinks the way this is going to go is you're going to be very positive, he's going to be neutral, and I'm going to be negative.
Oh, right on brand. We're so predictable.
No, I think I'm fairly neutral in the middle.
You said you were a different middle to me.
I think I'm in a different middle, so I also agree with you
There's
guys.
two middle
First of
points.
all, never send an author death threats in general. I feel like over
Yeah.
a story, yeah.
Especially not over this story. I don't know how it was portrayed in the manga. Was it maybe to do with fan translations or scanlations getting out early to just mess something up, or is it significantly different?
The reason I think that why the manga was received so controversial at the time was that people were still, I think, really expecting for a happy ending with Eren. I think everyone was waiting for the...
Really? Right up until the final chapter, were they?
Yeah, I did something wrong, and kind of like, oh, we're gonna return all this and make it all right. And I think when it just went down the path and it didn't stop, people were like, oh, that's bad writing, I think was the way many people looked at it. While for me, I was surprised that people didn't realize that the main character, like we were basically watching a Joker movie. It was like the main protagonist was a villain, and I think many people didn't realize that or didn't want to accept that.
So up until this episode, I would have agreed with that. I would have said that this is the villain's journey, and I guess it still kind of is, but at the same time, like I find it hard to reckon with, because did he have a choice? He had all the choices in the world, but all of those choices still lead him to that same point. So is he the villain? Was he funneled down that road?
I think the messages are both. I think, yes, you can say he was kind of like forced into that position, but at the same time, I think just because he says that as the villain doesn't mean it's true that there were literally no other choices, right, for him. And doesn't he literally say like, oh, maybe he was too weak to make anything else happen?
I don't recall that line specifically. It's all still very...
I feel like there was something like that. So I think we're taking Aaron's word here for that he had no other choice but to commit to eradicate all of humanity.
But when he was saying those words, I think is the time when he was finally starting to be honest, because that's when he said like the really pathetic speech about Mikasa, which is the one thing I knew about the finale, because that panel kept getting passed around on Twitter. The one where he's like, I want Mikasa to pine over me for 10 years.
So the reason why I would say I'm neutral in the good sense, I would say that Attack on Titan, like it was like pretty perfect ending to the story. We had gotten to that point, and I did enjoy that we kind of didn't get that happy ending that some people apparently were thinking was gonna happen at some point. I think it was like a pretty
never going to happen.
Yes. On the reason I'm like critical, or where I'm like leaning towards being super positive, is, and that's not the ending per se, I just think Attack on Titan never did a great job when it comes to character writing.
Sophie,
let me finish
please.
this. This is my personal opinion. I think
we're not judging you.
I think some of the writing in the story is not great, starting with like the second season of the anime. And obviously I was a big fan of that entire, oh, the world is actually normal, like, you know, the Titans are just on that island. I think it was a great
end of
reveal.
Season 3. Beautiful.
But it also clearly, like, I felt personally like the author like struggled a little bit. Then starting with that point, I feel like focus was taken away from a lot of characters that would have needed a lot more like time for the story to work out.
Who's someone you were disappointed by?
I think, for example, like, I'm not a big fan of Armin throughout the story. Like, I understand that he's supposed to be the...
Sorry, I'm just reacting to Sophie's face. Sorry, please continue.
He's like the most shonen-y character in that entire show. Like,
he's the Samwise.
He is the Samwise, but I personally don't think that Lord of the Rings is that Attack on Titan is Lord of the Rings. Like, it doesn't have for me exactly that message of hope. That message of hope.
Tolkien versus Isayama deathmatch. Go.
Yeah,
I can get on board with that, because apart from maybe Levi, who is the one moment in this finale where I did tear up a bit, where he's on the floor and all of the scouts have appeared, that hit me pretty hard. Apart from him, I'm not entirely like massive on any of the other characters either. Like, I don't think it's Attack on Titan's strongest aspect. Sophie is horrified.
No. I wouldn't say that characterization is the best part of Attack on Titan. I don't know if it's the context, but I would agree that the author doesn't spend as much time in developing the characters. But I feel like because we're watching them in the world around them, it's very easy to build up the character on your own.
No, you shouldn't. That's not what I'm saying. I don't think you have, like, I'm not saying like build up the character on their own. I'm not saying that Attack on Titan has terrible writing. I'm just saying it's not great writing is what I'm saying. Like, I'm not completely saying this is shit. Like, it's a good story, and I think it's a good story that had a fitting ending to its story. But I think, again, like, looking at stories like One Piece, like other stories that do have like a strong character focus, it was kind of rinse and repeat with watching the core set of Mikasa, Armin, and Eren learn basically nothing over 4 seasons or like 12 seasons.
I feel like the supporting cast was actually, they didn't get a lot of personal time dedicated to them, like in the same way that we see each Straw Hat get a backstory, for example. But I think it becomes very easy to empathize with the likes of Jean and Connie,
yes,
for example. Like, all of those characters, like when
Connie,
they lose Sasha, like,
yes,
even
Connie
Jean,
sure,
like the change that he's gone through from season 1 when he was basically a prick, and then like by the end of Attack on Titan. He's probably one of my favorite characters. Like, it was the moment when Connie and Jean were turning into fucking titans that I lost my shit, and I was like, oh my god, this guy is a sadist. This mangaka is a fucking sadist. Why is he doing this to me? Like, why? Like, has this manga not gotten dark enough already? Like, what is happening?
Speaking of dark enough, I thought it would go a lot darker. I thought many more people would die
80%
than
isn't
did, yeah.
enough for you.
No, 80%.
But we don't know 80%.
But like only 20% of our main characters, if that. Like apart from Eren, and Zeke, I guess, who died in this finale? I guess everyone by the end because of all the time skips, but
Hange?
like I thought it would be much
Hanji,
more
yes.
costly. Yeah, but Hange was like that was later. That was before. We did that already.
You were expecting people to die in this finale?
I meant in this specific episode, this 90 minutes.
I agree with you. I think he achieved that. If anything, what people would have to be mad about was the one thing that everyone hates Oda about as well, which I'm actually not on that train, is the fake out deaths. Because a lot of them did die and then they just came back to life, right? I think
Eren.
he did get that emotional, like, to the gut, and then was like, no. It's a semi-happy ending.
I'm not hating it, and like when I read it, as you said, I did not quite understand different critiques that people had. Again, like the people who did expect some sort of happy end at the end clearly haven't been paying attention like, for a Game of Thrones reference there.
But what is the happy ending that they could have expected? That like
Revives everyone. I don't know, pulls like a
Power of the
Naruto.
founding titan sacrifices itself to breathe life into everyone who died
And brings peace to the entire world. I don't know. I think they wanted like a proper redemption moment for Eren, which I don't think he deserved, in my opinion. And which he got a little bit.
And yeah, I
which he
think
got
the
a little
redemption
bit,
that he got
but
was
luckily not.
Yeah.
But it was not full redemption for sure.
Yeah.
Like it was still kind of pathetic in the end, which I thought was fitting and like well done.
I mean, Liam
that
wants
sense.
a greater didn't want even the little bit of redemption that Eren got.
I keep coming back to this. I don't know how I feel about Eren. I don't know if he's to blame at all in this scenario, because I don't know if his choices were actually his choices. And that's what's like messing with me right now.
Actually, I can kind of empathize with what you said earlier, where you're like you get the message, but the message doesn't exactly resonate with you. I can kind of get behind that because I don't really mind like a very honest, dark, and brutal message and ending to a story per se. But as you say, there was not really like in the end, the best we can do is like enjoy the time we have with it. Like there was nothing like that. It was kind of just like despair and like nothing really like a very strong nihilism.
No, because okay, the manga and the anime might be different, because I think one of the differences was that actually I just based off a quick Google read was that the anime is that all the previous Titans, so basically the Scouts, they are going back to Paradise Island. This is in the anime, to talk about peace and to try to persuade Paradise
With
Island.
their nice suits.
Yeah, with all their fancy hair. Whereas I think in the manga I read that they're actually literally physically rebuilding the land. And so I think there is a level of hope there, especially with the anime, in the idea that they're trying to still broker peace between the world. But then there's still that level of realism.
Which fails.
Did it fail? I don't know if we knew that. I mean, war happens eventually. This is like hundreds of years into the future, though.
I didn't see that. Is that a post-credit scene?
It was during the credits. They did like they showed Eren's grave for like a couple of 100 years. And so there were like cities built around it. And then we got all sci-fi, and then it just got nuked to death.
I didn't see that. I started watching part of the credits, and then I saw your message calling me Slofy, and I was like, well, fuck, I gotta wash up and join these guys. And so I skipped the
Nice.
credits.
And then right at the end is the bit with the boy and the dog that, like, who knows how many thousands of years later find Eren's grave, and that's what Manu was talking about.
No. I think if that's the case, even if Paradise Island gets fucking nuked to shits, I think the message is
hope.
that I think because I think what the author is saying is like, even if that's the outcome, we should still try for peace.
Maybe. I'm okay with the author saying that it's hopeless. That's completely the artistic right of the author.
If he was saying it's hopeless, they would have just let Eren kill everyone. The whole point throughout that final episode continuously was, we're the fucking Scouts, we don't know when to give up.
I mean, but that wasn't kind of the message that Eren was like, I tried. And again, we don't know if we can trust Eren there, what I said to Liam earlier, but
He may be an unreliable narrator.
he may be. But then what we're led to believe, according to him, is that he tried every possible scenario, and the only way to actually bring peace is to kill everyone else.
Even in his head, though, this wasn't like, yes, 80% of humanity died, but in his head, it's like the 20% will go on to build a better future.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's hope in his twisted mind.
As long as none of those 20% get with Mikasa afterwards.
That was, yeah.
I mean, he sacrificed his entire life. He's got to get some little bit of happiness.
Also, I will say, like, this may be petty, but the fact that Mikasa still loves Eren after all that time, like, that's the one part of missing character development that I'm just, like, very salty about.
I've never really, beyond the first season, understood the Mikasa-Eren connection. It doesn't do much for me. Armin Eren does much better. In fact, I think they got a much better moment in the final.
Oh, I know, that another watershed moment for me.
Like, and when Mikasa gave Armin Eren's head, I thought, is he going to kiss it as well?
You're gonna make me cry again.
No, the Armin Eren chat was that was really good. I enjoyed that quite a bit.
I do agree that relationship between Eren and Mikasa wasn't fleshed out very well, but again, it's one of those moments where, like, if I just add in my just a little bit more I don't know, depth into it, I can
fill some gaps.
like, I think you just fill some gaps and then it makes sense.
I think, to be fair, like, I also had like over a year now to process, or was it 2 years? I don't even remember. I had a lot of time to process this all, so I might have felt different if this had been like my first time watching it. Well, I guess I'm looking at it in a lot more retrospect right now.
We're just looking at it in spect.
Actually, that's also a good point. Were you reading the manga like weekly? Did you binge read it?
I read it weekly, like, for the last few chapters. Like, I binged it, and then I can kind of get behind you guys in the sense that while that was going on, even there was controversy, and even though there were things I wasn't like happy with in general, with like part of the story, I was still very much in that Attack on Titan fever, wanting to know how it ends and everything. While I feel like since it has ended, I've like very much kind of like ended my interest into the series as well, if that makes sense. I guess like processing it and then just being like, okay, like it's different from like stories, let's say what's like a good example, like a classic Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, where you're like, oh, the story still moves me even like years later, and even though I know the ending, I would still want to like relive the entire adventure because it touches me, and like I get so much out of it. I know I don't have that with Attack on. Like, I'm not like, oh man, I can't wait to binge all 12 final seasons of Attack on Titan.
But then again, Attack on Titan, it doesn't give you like a lot to live for. Harry Potter and all those sorts of things, they invigorate life into you because they breathe in hope. Attack on Titan, it has a very bleak artistic message. So it's not something you would necessarily want to re-experience all that often.
Speak for yourselves. I am very excited. I am very excited to watch it from beginning to end and just binge it because there was so many things I forgot.
From the beginning to the final season to the next final season to the next final season.
All the way from the final season to the final season.
Well, since we're all laughing right now, I just found a Twitter post of a user who's probably a little bit salty about Attack on Titan, saltier than all three of us, and definitely a lot more salty than the two of you.
Oh, okay.
And I want to read this to you. It's a list of, I'm sure some people have questions after seeing the Attack on Titan finale, such as, and it's a list of, if I can count correctly, like 11 to 12 questions. Number 1, why is there this man pretending to be Eren on screen? Which I guess is the guy from the Jaegerists. What happened to the Eren that attacked Marley and started the Jaegerists? Why did Eren cry about Mikasa when everyone and their mothers on Paradise knew that she had a crush on him and could start a relationship at any point?
Except at that point when he cried.
Yeah, I guess so.
Oh my god, I completely forgot Historia was a character, and we see her in this as well.
Why bother only half committing to the rumbling? Wasn't the point to keep Paradise and his friends forever? If he wanted to keep his friends safe, why is Hanji dead and Levi a cripple?
But he was giving out lollipops at the end. That was kind of nice.
I know, it's so sweet.
Why even bother talking to Zeke about kids if you plan to die? Why go to such lengths to ensure you can use the Founding Titan's powers without the drawbacks if you weren't gonna finish the job? Why go to such lengths to ensure you can use the Founding Titan's powers without the drawbacks if you weren't gonna finish the job? Why did Armin thank Eren for killing all those people? That's a good question, actually.
Oh, No. So that's a difference between the anime and the manga. That's one of the only differences I know. Like in the anime, so the line Sophie and I got was like Armin saying, like, let's go to hell together, Eren. And I believe in the manga it was, thank you for becoming a mass murderer for our sakes, or something along those lines.
They do change it a bit. I think Armin says something like, thanks for bringing the wall down, or thanks for something along those lines. But I mean, I think, okay, keep reading, Manu. I'll save my thoughts until the end.
Sophie's
Yeah,
taking
I'm almost done. Why is the rest of the Alliance calling Eren cool and thanking him as well?
because they got their memories.
Why is
back.
Jean banging Mikasa? And why is Armin banging Annie?
Was Jean banging Mikasa? Is that what happened at the end with the like? Because Mikasa was with
People
a man
think that was Jean.
during that like little time skip. I mean, yeah, why not? What an alpha! Go for it.
But yeah, I guess some people
I mean-
were a bit more salty about the end.
If they have that many questions, they clearly weren't paying attention.
Half of them are answered by just having your eyes
Yeah.
open. And the way those questions are phrased as if it's like major plot holes, but it's just
Yeah.
holes in comprehension for most of them.
That's true. That's true. I think it's just points of dissatisfaction probably for that person.
Yeah, it's a list of complaining, right? That's meant to look smarter than it is.
It's actually interesting, Liam. You're our strong representation on the Elon files on the Elon side.
God, am I?
What's been the
don't
general
want that
reception of the
distinction.
anime?
Good. Really good. I haven't seen a single person whose opinion matters say that it was bad. People have just been going, Attack on Titan, perfect finale, couldn't have asked for more, da 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 da.
I think perfect is a strong word, but it was definitely decent.
I think this is a good discussion in that case, because how many pieces of media that you know where you would actually say something had a perfect ending?
That I know personally.
Well, yeah, that you experienced and you felt very satisfied.
Yeah, not many.
Ash winning the Pokemon Championship.
No, it took too long, Manu. It took too long. Maybe something like Inception. I remember being very satisfied by that ending.
But that's a movie. Like, think about a
Oh,
series.
you're
Think about
specifically
something that has
saying TV
like
series,
it doesn't have to be TV series, but imagine it could be a long comic series, a long book series, like whatever, something that runs for a long time. Like, it is extraordinarily hard to give something a very satisfying ending, in my opinion. Like, okay, as Harry Potter fans, were you guys 100% satisfied with the Harry Potter ending, for example?
No, but I also wasn't satisfied
I'd say so.
100% with the beginning and middle, but it was a fun read.
I didn't like the movies, like the late movies. I was not a fan of, but I think the ending per
How
se,
dare you? My wife was in those films.
especially that one.
I didn't like them a lot either.
No, I think like the third one was like the first two were kind of like child movies. Third one was a real highlight, and then afterwards it was kind of like teenage emo.
That's the journey, though.
Not in the books, I think. Not as much. I feel like the books are nicer.
Maybe it's just because I was pretty much the age of Harry Potter as the books came out, but they felt like quite a natural progression to me. To Sophie's point, though, I'm trying to recall a long-running series that doesn't have a controversial ending, like say something like The Sopranos. People would either say that ending was brilliant or it was garbage. There is no universal opinion.
I mean, there's like two things. Like, I would say, and that's me personally, I did like the ending of Lord of the Rings a lot. It was like very
Which
on
one?
theme.
It ended like 10 times in Return of the King.
Which one do you mean? Like the movie ending?
Yeah, it had like 10 endings that just happened one after the other.
You're gonna have to
Elaborate?
explain. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you mean elaborate? They had like 10 different scenes that would typically end a film, just like one after the other. It kept going. It was like a string of endings.
It was an epilogue, I guess. Yeah.
I agree. It was lovely. It was meant to be a joke, but proceed. Cut that, Riley. Cut
Okay.
that.
No, don't cut it. Don't
Cut
cut it.
any
Leave
moment
that
I'm
in
not funny.
exactly. Like, I think one general problem, and I'm not sure if we've ever discussed this, but I've definitely talked with this about people, is the same's gonna be for one. Like, clearly, One Piece speaks on different levels to different audiences. So no matter how great the ending will be, there is gonna be people who are gonna be disappointed because some people will want Luffy to die, some people will want Luffy definitely not to die and marry Boa Hancock, and some people will want him to marry Nami. Like, it doesn't matter what you do with the character, there's going to be people who really wanted you to do something different with the character.
I think it'll happen according to the Gear 5th ratio, though. I feel like the people who are satisfied with Gear 5th are the ones that are going to like the ending, and the like 5-10% who really didn't like it are going to really not like it.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be like the overwhelming majority will be like, yeah, that's like that was One Piece all along.
I don't care because I think I will probably be happy with it, and I don't really care how other people see it. But I mean, it would be nice if it was like a majority. I would say though, even for Gear 5, there's like still a bigger subsection, I think, of fans for like the finale of the story, because Gear 5 was still very much shonen-y power up. It was a very insane, overpowered new kind of like level for Luffy to reach. And I guess it was like, oh, is this a little bit too goofy for you? Yes or no? Like, oh, some people are like, oh, I would have liked something more serious, but that was kind of it. While I feel like the ending to the story, kind of all the mysteries resolving and the end to Luffy's journey, I think that's going to be a lot more nuanced for people, depending on what you actually value in One Piece.
I think that it's more I trust Oda to do all of those things just as well as the other, whether it's power up or ending. I think it'll be
Hopefully.
fun.
Me too.
One Piece is like the only story I've ever been invested in that I've not been worried about the ending sucking.
Me too. Just because of my faith in Oda's writing, like you said.
Okay, so I will say, I think I could see both Luffy dying and Luffy not dying. I could see both working depending how you put it. But like, if you had to pick preference-wise, would you prefer Luffy to live or Luffy to die?
I think it really depends on the circumstances. It's
That
like,
was so high. So
like I mean,
a lot of emotions in there. Proceed.
well, I mean, we've got this final war. Like, is he gonna do a epilogue where we witness like Luffy die like far off in the future? Is it just going to end sort of very in the present, just right after the war almost,
Will
and
he
he
be
gives his hat to
executed?
someone else? Nah, fuck that.
You don't want a full Roger ending?
I have
I don't
heard
think so.
opinion also that like finding the One Piece will be one of the last chapters that we get.
I don't think so, because there goes my high voice again, but didn't Oda say that that's the part
Sorry, I
of the
didn't want to
story?
make you super self-conscious of that now.
I'm on a very emotional night tonight.
I think what Oda said is that he would like to end the story with finding the One Piece, and I've seen people interpret it as, oh, that might mean that we get the final war before Luffy finds the One Piece, and then...
I would like to find the exact quote because I don't remember it, but I thought he said something closer to that would trigger the beginning of the end, like once it's found.
That was my understanding as well.
Yes, that was that one quote that was kind of ambiguous, but apparently he did clarify on that.
Because Luffy still has something to do after he finds it and becomes the Pirate King.
Yeah, like I always interpreted that to be like he finds the One Piece, and that sort of is the thing that's going to help him overthrow the world government or help him like fight Inu, for example.
So just for full transparency, I do think, or I would like to think that as well. But apparently, like, Oda did clarify that in some interview with another mangaka after that initial quote came out and like caused a little bit of confusion, and where he said, no, like, I want Luffy to find the One Piece. It's kind of like the One Piece does what it's supposed to do kind of like thing, and the story ends.
Well, that would be a shit ending.
And now,
Well,
really?
Luffy finds the One Piece, then cut to the next page. It does what it's meant to do. The end.
No,
I
I mean,
mean,
I'm sure he'll
no,
still
no,
be
I
like,
mean-
there'll still be the world economic, like, News Morgans is gonna be like, Luffy finds the One Piece.
dude, I swear if we get like a 10 page wrap up to the story like Naruto did, I would be so mad if we don't get at least a couple of epilogue chapters or something.
Chapters, arc, epilogue, arc. So many things and characters to go back and revisit and just tie off.
Yeah, but I mean, one possibility would of course be that the One Piece is not necessary to overthrow the world government, but after the world government is overthrown, it's like necessary to like break the whatever, like make the world habitable again, break the red line, whatever it may be.
Yeah, well, maybe it's just useless.
Or it's the journal where he gets to write down, I saved the world.
Where he writes a joke down. It's just a joke book, yeah.
Knock, knock. Who's there? Joy Boy.
Like, given how things are, would you want to see like would you have Luffy kind of be the classic, oh, like his entire thing was like being the freest person and his purpose kind of being saving the world and freeing the world, and then kind of that role is over, he dies as the freest man, kind of like fulfilled and happy and kind of as the hero? Or is it more like, oh, he frees everyone and then he kind of like settles down?
He's not going to settle down.
No, I don't think he should settle down. I think he just goes on and has parties with all the different islands and is like, all right, I'm going to have as much meat for the rest of my life now.
Yeah, he just does an island crawl for however long he has remaining. Or maybe he shoots off into space.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And decides I'm going to have another adventure.
I do kind of want Luffy Luffy to live just because obviously you care about him as a person, as a character. But would you agree that him dying would kind of make sense given what he represents as a character?
I agree that it could happen, and that I can definitely picture a world where the last thing you see of Luffy is that Will of D death smile.
Yeah, smile.
It's how fate works. The Will of D is particularly brutal. It uses you, then discards you.
And then 10 years later.
But that's the point about Luffy though, right? It's like, yes, he's the fated one, but he's also the special one.
But how special? Is he the specialist boy? Because we've had special boys in the past.
Yeah, but he is a specialist boy. That's the whole point. He is the specialist of them all. Joy Boy couldn't fulfill his promise. Roger, like all of them, they were...
Was too early.
Yeah, but Luffy's the specialist. He's the goodest of goodest.
I could see it happening either way. I feel like whichever way Oda wants to take it, it can work.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure... Didn't he already have the ending basically set in stone at the beginning of the story? Let's see.
We will. The big question is, how much of humanity is Luffy going to destroy in the final war? Are we gonna, above or below Eren? Because I feel like above is a big ask.
Has Luffy killed anyone before? Not really, right?
No, it's a joke.
Not really.
Riley, cut that.
But no. But I do think that the war could result in a lot of deaths. It wouldn't be Luffy necessarily personally killing anyone, but he could bring about some sort of massive conflict that could kill a lot of people.
What are the odds that more main characters die in the final war of One Piece than the final conflict of Attack on Titan?
Yeah.
I would say not bad, given how few characters actually died.
I think so too.
Have we talked about the possibility of, let's say, an Usopp or someone of the Straw Hats dying at the end?
Right. So I was researching this today, actually, for an Usopp video, and I found the quote that, spurs all of this. I forget exactly what it is, but it's Usopp sort of saying that, sort of replicating Dory's belief of, I think he says something like, if I get stuck on a deserted island and die, at least I'll be proud of how I lived as a brave warrior. And so the theory spawns from that Usopp can't become the brave warrior without dying.
I never even heard that quote, and I still think that Usopp makes sense. If ever a Straw Hat needed to die to really deliver a punch, wouldn't he be the one?
I've heard the quote. I think Usopp dying would be infinitely more depressing than Luffy.
Oh, yeah.
I think so too. I also don't know, I'm of two minds. I still slightly feel like Oda won't do it. The way that he's written his story so far, I feel like, I don't know, I think he just loves them too much.
I think Luffy is the only one who has a chance. The rest of them, it just doesn't feel like One Piece.
I don't know, things might change, but I feel like Oda still tries to make sure that things stay as bright as possible in the circumstances.
I mean, I'm very curious to see, because you will need some elevated
Maybe
stakes.
someone, yeah, but they'll be the people like Rayleigh or something.
I was about to say no need necessarily to kill a Straw Hat, but also if Rayleigh died, I'd be sad. But the reaction would be. He was old. He was banging the hottest chick and one of the hottest chicks in One Piece.
He had a good life.
He was gambling and drinking. And second, I was he had a good life. If anyone was allowed to die, Rayleigh is okay.
Or what about someone like Law in that case?
I like how Sophie's who can we kill off who's painful but bearable.
Law is a much stronger choice just because there's a very logical mechanism for it to happen.
What about Kid? Oh wait.
He's already dead in my heart.
What about Shanks?
Shanks is a good choice too.
But I mean, Shanks is super dying anyways, right? I mean, no way that Shanks doesn't die, so...
Ooh, I don't know, maybe there is a way, but I think it is quite likely.
Again, Shanks dying, tragic, but since it's a character we don't actually know that much about, how emotionally would that actually...
Mate, Film Red is still playing in theaters in your country. People are emotionally attached to this man.
Alright, Shanks and Mihawk dying.
Mihawk.
No one cares about Mihawk dying.
Oh, I don't know, man. There's plenty of people that care about Mihawk.
I would care if Mihawk died.
Of course you would, Zoro lover.
I think we can all be happy I'm not writing One Piece, but if I did write One Piece, I would kill a Straw Hat for the final arc.
Oh, brutal. I would not.
Would it be Usopp that you
It
kill?
would be Usopp, because Usopp is the one, like, he's that one
Heartless.
character. I mean, he can become a brave warrior and living, but he becomes a really brave warrior by sacrificing himself for his captain or someone else.
We do the thing where we straddle it in the middle, and Usopp's prepared to sacrifice himself. He's made peace with it, and then from behind him, Dory and Broggy are like the well-demonstrated Sniper King, and then all of the giants come and save him. That's a One Piecey thing to happen.
Something I would really love to see is sort of like akin to Levi handing out lollipops at the end of the story would be Usopp
Crippled.
telling kids kids
Usopp has no arms
all
and
of his
legs.
life story.
Yes.
Telling them all of his life story, but then for the first time they're real. Like he doesn't
And
have
no
to lie
one
about
believes
it.
him because it sounds so
Yeah.
absurd. Yeah. No, I love that. Yeah.
I don't want Usopp to die.
I don't know. It kind of sounds like you do.
If I was the author of One Piece, and I wish I was, I'd fucking kill Usopp in a heartbeat.
I would have killed him long ago.
Okay. Listen to this. Imagine this. Emotional impact. Usopp offers to save his life, but he gets rewarded for it, but someone else steps in and he survives and he gets like this happy ending. Satisfying, great moment for Usopp, and like we have a happy ending with him. But then imagine this. Luffy is actually about to die. Usopp, even though it's like whatever, Blackbeard, whoever, like a super scary opponent, like darkness, monster, whatever. Usopp overcomes all his fears and sacrifices himself for Luffy, becoming a brave warrior of the sea. Luffy goes absolutely like Ace times 10. Like, isn't that the ultimate motivation for
dies?
Luffy to
All right, option 3.
like
option
overcomes?
This didn't overcome
Wait, option
anything.
3. Option 3 is your option 2. Usopp dies until the next 2 chapters later we find out that Usopp didn't actually die.
He just
I
lost
think
all
that's
his
the more
limbs.
realistic
No.
Oda approach.
In that situation, Usopp becomes a Kobe. He's ready to die. He's ready to get fisted, like by magma and everything. And then someone comes and saves him at the last second. Usopp's not dying. This is absurd.
No, I agree that it would make sense for Oda to kill off Usopp, but I just don't think he would really kill off Usopp is what I'm saying.
Okay, I don't want Usopp to die. Like, I just want to like put that out there. I want him to live. He's like one of my favorite boys. And I do get where you're coming from, and I'm also like doing copium, like trying to find reasons, but you're not telling me that there's not, like, I just refuse to believe that there's, for the finale of One Piece, not going to be a moment more heartbreaking than Ace.
Shanks.
Who cares? Genuinely, do you care if Shanks dies?
Yes.
No. Shanks, let me explain why. Like, nobody cares if Shanks dies or if Rayleigh dies or... Because they're all brave, like, characters living their lives like how they wanted to. They're strong. Like, if they die, they're gonna take it like a G. And it's gonna be like, oh no, Shanks died. But it's just not gonna be the same thing as a character dying who we're like emotionally attached to, who has
No,
like...
I agree with you, Manu. I completely agree with you on that point, but what I'm saying is, do you,
You
not
don't
think
want
that Oda
Usopp to
would...
die. Yes, I know,
Don't
I
you
get
think...
that, yeah.
No. It's just more like, don't you think it would be more Oda-esque for him to land that sort of emotional impact, and then 3
take it
chapters
away.
later we see Usopp completely bandaged in a random village, and someone finds him. Like,
I don't think I would love that as much, because that would just... I mean, it would still be
Love
a
is
great
strong
moment.
word.
It is.
because it's the same complaint that everyone has about his fake out deaths.
Yes, because it would still be a great moment for Usopp, but like, if you think about, legendary anime moments, it's more like people genuinely sacrificing themselves and then like bearing the consequence of that. That's, I think, why Ace's death is like a very iconic, or maybe one of the most iconic moments in One Piece, because he genuinely got freed in the end against all odds and then chose to sacrifice himself for his brother and actually died. Like, just imagine how they would change the story if Ace had been like 2 days later bandaged with like a slight small hole in the stomach.
That's what we expected to happen back when it did happen. It was impactful, I will give you that. And I agree that Usopp would be a much more tragic death than Shanks. But I think Shanks is enough.
Oh, Shanks is dying, but I just...
Sorry to quote Manu, no one would care. I think we need to remember this quote for years down the line because it is a very likely event. And when it does happen, I need a clip of that. Yeah.
Clipped.
I think,
clipped.
point taken, but I think you know what I mean, right? There's like levels of impact.
Your words are extraordinary hyperbole, but I get what you're saying.
And I will say, like, Shanks is one of the characters that if anyone had to bet on one character dying in One Piece before the end of the story, Shanks is definitely in a top 5 list up there.
If not top 1, I'm not sure who would die over him.
Maybe Gob. But even he doesn't look like he's dying anytime soon, even though he literally got stabbed in the guts, so.
I would probably bet Shanks over Garp.
Yeah.
Oh, I am glad I don't gamble.
And again, like if you put a gun to my head and said kill any Straw Hat,
Usopp, we know.
Usopp for the emotional baggage.
I love
But
you. I love you, Usopp.
Yes, I love Usopp. Like losing Usopp would hurt so much more than let's
Kill one of the ones you don't like.
let's say Frankie dies, right? I'm like, oh,
Hey!
yeah.
Then
I'm like,
almost no one would care.
That sucks, but it's not the same as Usopp dying.
I agree. Don't kill him. Well, Sophie, is this a good time for to remember that we have new members, or not? Maybe we don't.
I don't know. I'm too distraught right now.
Lamenting.
Just experienced the finale of Attack on Titan, and now Manu has painted a
And
vivid
apparently
picture
the
of
One Piece
Usopp's
finale
death.
too. And no one's even gonna have a fucking funeral for Shanks, because who the hell cares about that?
No one cares about
No one
Shanks.
cares about Shanks. I will say, like, probably like 3 years from now, there's gonna be comments under this podcast. Some way or another, there's gonna be comments under this podcast.
It's either gonna be that didn't age well, or he called it. This only ends 2 ways for you, Manu. This is your raid fail moment.
People are gonna be like, Shanks did die, but we all did care.
I cared.
I care.
Alright, I did get it up. Everyone
Nice.
say thank you to
You did get it up, no Viagra.
KO Ashford. I'm not that old yet.
Leo Ashford, thank you.
KO Ashford, thank you very much.
We appreciate it greatly.
We do.
I think this is a bad time to bring this up, but I personally don't understand the level of hate for fake out deaths.
Oh,
I do.
Sophie, this is a very bad time to bring this up.
Yes, Liam is like frantically typing in the chat. 2 minutes left.
I've
1
got
minute left.
120 seconds. I can't get
Sophie
into this.
is like, let me throw out an extremely controversial
Let me
take
throw out
right
the most
here.
controversial take I've ever had.
Yeah.
I don't know why people think that it takes away from someone's sacrifice.
It does.
Because it's not a sacrifice if
Because there's no
sacrifice.
consequences. It's like, well, the intention is there, but like...
But the intention is there, exactly. The impact on the audience, slightly maybe, but in terms of the characterization, you saw the
Consequences are
character's
relevant.
development.
It means that once you do that once, it means that you will not ever have that impact again. Because when someone sacrifices themselves because of the previous experience, you as a reader know that that is probably not happening and you don't feel for that character. And then it goes a layer deeper than that, because when an actual sacrifice does happen, like say Izo or Ashura Doji, no one believes it. And then they end up dead, and it was like, oh, I guess I forgot to feel for them because I didn't think they were dead.
I don't know, I felt for them.
No one felt for them, Sophie, just like Shanks.
No one less than Shanks. No. Yeah, I think consequences are extremely important to stories. Again, that's the same. It was the same for, like, that was why the time skip was so important for, I'm looking at 40 seconds, plenty of time to finish this topic. That's why the time skip was so important for Luffy and like so impactful for the story, and one of the most remembered, what made Marineford so epic in parts, is because Luffy was flying on that high with the Straw Hats. Oh, we just beat a warlord like easily, you know, like who can defeat us? And then actually like he loses his crew and his brother.
True.
Yeah, no, I get the why, I get the overall impact on the rest of the story. It wouldn't make sense for Ace to continue living afterwards, but I don't think it takes away from Pell's character that he lived.
Yeah, thanks for
Okay,
watching the
signing out.
podcast.
Bye.
Oh, my camera stopped.